Hello, it is Carmen Chloe of CoachCarmenChloe.com. I am a clarity coach for young widowed moms who want to gain clarity on how to grieve, heal, and live after the loss of their spouse. You can learn more about me via CoachCarmenChloe.com. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a touchy subject, okay? The topic of this video is widow grief can be one of the loneliest types of grief. Widow grief can be one of the loneliest types of grief. So on this journey of grief, the grief that a widow experiences, no matter how diverse it may be, no matter how different the relationships were, it can be a very unique type of grief. And this can be one of the loneliest types of grief, okay? You may be surrounded by people who love you and care about you. However, none of them can understand what it is that you're going through unless they themselves have experienced the loss of a spouse. And even in that, there's a difference between when you lose your spouse prematurely at a young age, like at the age of 46. I became widowed at the age of 38. Like we were just getting started in our marriage. We were just getting started on learning how to master the ebbs and the flows and the peaks and the valleys of marriage, and then he died. That's very different than someone who was married for 50 years and their spouse died in old age. No, I am not comparing grief because you cannot compare griefs. However, it needs to be said that there is a difference, okay, between you losing your husband prematurely versus being married for 50 years and your husband passes away in old age. There is a difference between that. And even in that, just being a widow, period, it's a very unique type of loss, okay? So again, unless your family members have experienced this, they're not going to be able to get it. And even to break it down a little bit further, young widowhood with children is an even different type of beast, okay? Because you have young children who are left without a parent, and you have to then figure out how to grieve and how to heal for yourself, and then you have to figure out how to get the resources and the tools and the tips and how to pay attention to them to make sure that they're grieving and healing as well. And there's so many things, so many firsts that they'll never get to experience, okay? They'll never get to experience their father taking them to the daddy-daughter dance. They'll never get to experience their father walking them down the aisle. There's just certain things that they will never get to experience. And I'm not gonna go too deep into this because I don't wanna get too emotional about it, because I have two small daughters. They were 4 and 7 when my husband passed away. Their father passed away. So there's so many things that they're not going to get to experience, and that just goes deeper into the levels of this being one of the loneliest types of grief. Now, my grandmother passed away 11 months after my late husband died, okay? My grandmother and my late husband, they were extremely close. We had so many memories together. But when she passed away, I was still trying to figure out, you know, how to even walk through the journey of grief of my husband passing away, because he hadn't been gone for a year. And then she passed away. We were extremely close. As a matter of fact, my daughters and I lived in her house when we moved back to Florida after my husband passed away. So she passed away, and me and my family members, you know, my brother, some of my cousins, we shared some of the same type of grief, grieving my grandmother. However, one key difference was that after the funeral was over, everybody went home to their spouses. I did not, because my spouse was dead. And at that moment, in those days after my grandmother's funeral, I was in like a wilderness of grief. I was like, oh my God, like I really feel alone, because nobody can feel what I'm feeling. Like I was already grieving one loss, and then my grandmother passed away 11 months after, and just thinking about all the memories that we all share together. Like I have a picture of one of my youngest daughters. It was her birthday, and in the picture it's my grandmother, it's my late husband, it's my 2 daughters, and my mom, and I'm staring at the picture like, wow, they're both gone. My grandmother and my husband, the 2 that are in this picture, like they're both gone. So I was in just a very different space, and it made me realize how the grief that comes along with grieving a spouse is very unique, is very different, and it can be very lonely. However, I don't want you to get discouraged by that, okay? Now, because young widowhood with children is such a unique type of grief, You need to make sure that you do some things so that you're not out in the wilderness, so that you're not out there by yourself, and so that you're not walking this journey alone. Although there are certain emotions that you just have to feel and walk out on your own. So number one, make sure that you have community. Make sure you have a community that you can connect to. Make sure you have a community that fits with you. In the beginning, I got connected with different widow groups, and they were great at the time when I was going through the stage of venting and just super sadness. But then in some of the groups, they were depressing, and they didn't really speak life into the situation, and they didn't give any hope for actually healing and living again. And that's why I went and I created my community specifically for young widowed moms, so that I could give them a space to grieve, to heal, to say the things that they couldn't say to the outside world, but to also give them hope and courage to be able to live again. So make sure that you have a community that fits you. Make sure that you have support, okay? Make sure that you have a support circle of people that can actually get it. I have been so blessed on this journey when I felt like friends and family didn't get me and they turned their backs on me because they didn't know how to relate to me. God literally handpicked certain women who also had experienced the loss of a spouse and placed them in my lives. Like, just the most amazing women. And they're my sisters. They have become my sisters. So make sure that you have support. If you find another woman on this journey and you connect with them and your personalities are similar and you guys get each other, don't be afraid to connect. Don't be out there on an island by yourself. And then the third tip is to get some counseling, get some therapy, or get some coaching, whatever works for you. If you're going to get a coach, a life coach on this journey, a grief coach on this journey, I definitely recommend getting someone, shameless plug, like me, who has walked this journey out and who is walking this journey out, okay? So those are my 3 tips for you. You need to find something that works for you so that you're not out alone on an island by yourself. So before you go, I want you to check the description section. My guided healing course is officially available. You can get more information on that. It's a self-study course. It's going to walk you through the steps of grieving and healing, okay? And you can do it at your own pace. I want you to go to CoachCarmenChloe.com so you can check that out and buy it. Also, I'm accepting new coaching clients. You can fill out an application and set up your 15-minute discovery call via CarmenChloeCoaching.com. Don't worry, you don't have to remember any of this. I'm going to leave the information in the description section. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and connect, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace and blessings.